When you really think about it, Jogo kind of really is that middle ground of JJK. If you're weaker than him, you really are weak. And if you're stronger than him, you truly are strong. Thank you to our fellow patrons Red Wolf 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, and Sean. And another thank you to our $3 members Recliner Plays and Red Wolf 4765. And another very big thank you to our $10 patron Robbie Uchiha. And another very big thank you to our $25 patron Alex Ice Rose. And another very big thank you to our $25 member Alex Ice Rose. Now, before having this breakdown / discussion on how Jogo is like the definition and the barrier between weak and strong within JJK for the fact that he is actually not that strong, please remember leave your own thoughts on Jogo in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do have a Patreon down below where you can support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now let's hop into the discussion. What's up guys, Uncle Pencil here, and here we are to talk about Jogo, aka Slow Bro, because this man's a no-go, because let me stop, let me stop, that go with the pencil, not that go with the bars. But with that being the case, Jogo is a super interesting character when it comes to JJK discussion, at least in terms of scaling, and, you know, a little bit of writing, but mostly on the scaling front. Mainly because, like, Jogo is one of the few characters in JJK where you will consistently hear arguments about where he is, where he stands, if he's powerful, if he's not powerful, is he a glass cannon, is he not a glass cannon? Like, Jogo really is super duper weird when it comes to scaling in JJK. And ironically enough, he's kind of like super important just based on how complete he is as a character within JJK. And honestly, you can make a pretty solid argument that he's one of, if not, no, not the most, but he is legitimately one of the most complete characters in JJK in terms of abilities, rounded off power, all that good stuff. But let's talk about why. So why is Jogo so like complete? Like, in my opinion, probably the most complete out of any of the disaster curses, and realistically I'd say verbatim the most complete out of any of the curses that we've seen in the entirety of the series, except for maybe like Hanami, maybe, and even then that's a little bit up in the air. Let's talk about what makes a complete character within JJK. I believe a complete character within any series, but especially within JJK, is one who kind of has access to everything that the series has to offer. And the series has a lot to offer. It has regen, it has cursed energy manipulation, obviously. It has cursed techniques, it has levels to the cursed techniques such as domain, maximum techniques, and even little special things like domain amplification and stuff like that. It has a whole bunch of that good stuff rolling up in it. And when you really think about it, Jogo is pretty darn complete when it comes to his power set. Like, obviously, bro has cursed energy manipulation. He is a curse. Thusly, he's going to have cursed energy manipulation that gives him enhanced superhuman strength, superhuman speed, all that good stuff, all that real good, if you know what I'm saying. And then you have the fact that he not only has the basic stuff like cursed energy manipulation, but he has a really powerful technique. Like, as it's called, Disaster Flames is kind of bonkers when you really think about it. Put Disaster Flames in anyone's hands in the verse to the level that Jogo has it at, and it's really wild. Like, this man's straight up randomly spawning in whole volcanoes that are annihilating entire areas. Bro's turning entire people into literal just flaming sticks by simply existing around them. Like, Disaster Flames is actually pretty snapped. And Jogo doesn't just have Disaster Flames, he has Disaster Flame to like really high levels. Like, think about it. Bro has a domain expansion. Is it the most polished? Obviously not. Is it the most powerful domain? Obviously not. But we're going to talk about that more in a little bit. But the fact that he even has domain, and a really solid complete domain too, a domain with a sure hit technique no less. We've seen other domains, other people with domains, but some of them don't have sure hit techniques. And notably, Jogo's domain is actually noted to be like super duper dangerous to regular sorcerers. Like, you know how people can just like, you know, vaporize, well not vaporize, but get lit on fire by being in Jogo's very presence? Yeah, just being in the coffin of the Iron Mountain is supposed to light you on fire. It really is, just that, you know, Gojo is Gojo and Itadori was with Gojo, thusly they weren't lit on fire, but simply existing in there is meant to light you on fire. And he still gets the 120% technique buff, and he still has a sure hit technique that we never got to see. It is confirmed in external materials that the meteor that Jogo reacts to, or not Jogo, that Gojo reacts to within there is just a technique used by Jogo. It's not actually Gojo reacting to the sure hit of the domain. So we never actually do get to see Jogo's sure hit technique because he doesn't pull out his domain ever again within the series. He got humbled a bit too hard by Infinite Void, but still, the fact that he has a complete domain with a barrier and everything that has a sure hit technique, that he can use his technique to 120% and get that juicy little stat buff, and on top of that, the domain itself is lethal to most people, that's a really, really, really solid domain. You need to be able to have a decent amount of girth behind you if you're just going to survive the domain. And that's not all. Bro has a maximum technique. Even like complete top tier special grade sorcerers we know don't have maximums, but they have domains. And Jogo's maximum is pretty darn juicy. Like, don't get me wrong. Sure, we don't get to see it hit anybody, unfortunately. It is not the fastest of maximum techniques, unlike a Uzumaki or anything like that. It's not like that, but still, it's a technique that is really, really potent. He manages to summon a gigantic meteor that's as big as some skyscrapers and slam it down on people. And once again, I know there are contentions about this, and I'll definitely talk about it soon enough, but this was stated by Sukuna and Jogo that it actually would have harmed 15 Finger if it hit. The main thing that lacks with the maximum that something gets compensated for in like the domain is the speed of the technique. Because like notably fodder like Panda and, well, Kusakabe may not be fodder, but fodder like Panda was able to dodge it, and random curse users were also able to dodge it. And that's after Sukuna like held them there for a hot minute. So realistically, it's not the fastest, but still, it's an extremely powerful technique. It's actually one of the best like simultaneously DC and AP feats we see in the entire series, up until Gojo and his recent Earthquake feat in chapter 221. So he has a maximum that's extremely powerful, quote unquote powerful enough to harm 15 Finger. Now harm is super duper relative, but once again, I'm holding off on that. We're just going to talk about how complete Jogo is as a character right now. We aren't going to talk about where he scales just yet, because we have a lot of people that may or may not smack around Jogo. We'll get to it. But not only does he have a maximum, not only does he have a domain, not only does he have cursed energy manipulation, but also on top of that, he has domain amplification, which essentially gives him kind of the perks of a domain in the fact that he's able to shut down cursed techniques through contact, though this admittedly comes with the cost of him not being able to, use his cursed technique at all. He needs to solely use domain amplification. But still, the fact that he does have the ability to override and negate cursed techniques, an ability negation ability is, that sounds so weird, it's so stupid, an ability negation ability, but the ability to negate other abilities in any context is really, really good, especially considering this is a verse of JJK where abilities can really carry you. Like, abilities can put you up there a lot. So the fact that Jogo has the ability to shut down other people's abilities is pretty darn crazy. It is pretty darn bonkers. Unfortunately, we don't get to see much of Jogo's domain amplification because, once again, he uses it on Gojo, and, Gojo is Gojo. But still, the fact that he has that at all, and it's able to even slightly press Gojo's casual infinity is actually pretty wild. It's actually a little bit bonkers when you really think about that. The fact that this casual infinity that's been shown to like casually eat and ignore and annihilate a whole bunch of other different types of attacks of various speeds and properties, but Jogo's domain amplification can, low-key get up in its guts, that's kind of wild. That is a really, really good kit. It's a super solid kit, a strong base technique, a strong domain, a strong maximum, and the ability to shut down other techniques. And to be fair, Jogo isn't like, he ain't slow either. Like, bro's actually a little bit speedy. Like, notably, Dagon comes out and says, oh, shoot, now Bito, he may even be faster than Jogo. But still, Jogo's kind of a low-key a speedster. Like, bro really is a little bit like that. Is he too much of a speedster? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a bit. But still, he's pretty darn fast, and not just fast in like his movement and fighting sense, but he is also like really, really good with his regen too. Bro can get his limbs torn off, can get reduced to a head, can do really take a whole bunch of damage and just heal it right off. Like, he has some of the best regen feats we see in the entire series. And notably, this is due to the fact that he is a curse. Obviously, he does not have the same regen limitations as someone like an RCT user or anything like that. But the fact that he's able to casually pop back out limbs, that's something that not a lot of characters can like claim to. And even the level of regen he has in comparison to a lot of other curses is still super duper impressive. It's better than high special grades like Kurushi. It's better than special grades like the smallpox deity. Is better than special grades like, arguably, Even Hanami, like Hanami's regen, it just never gets to get proved that well. But once it gets its eye stalks ripped out, it can't even regen those. So Jogo is really indirectly, I don't want to call him tanky because he's explicitly known not to be tanky. He's actually known to be like kind of fodder defensively, and that's obviously going to matter a lot when we're talking about his scaling. But still, he is bulky in the fact that he can regen a lot. Like, you can't just easily take Jogo out. You need to like seriously do some real damage to him, like hypothetically light him on fire, because you know the cursed spirit that has all to do with like fire and rock and volcanoes and stuff like that can be taken out by fire. That's still some oh, that's a little bit embarrassing. But all of this is to say that Jogo is super duper complete. I'd say arguably he's more complete a character than Suguru Geto because he has a domain. We don't know if Geto ever did, and we know Geto does have pretty much everything else, but lacking a domain's kind of crazy. We know Yuki Tsukumo, and in terms of just sheer completeness, in terms of a complete moveset, Jogo's more complete than Yuki Tsukumo. We don't know if Yuki has a maximum. You could argue the black hole is a maximum, but we don't get like confirmation that's a maximum technique. So I don't think Yuki has a maximum, but Jogo has a maximum. He's more complete than her. Easy, a little bit light work, just like that. More complete of a character than Yuta. And I know that's crazy because like Yuta has 5 different curse techniques. Well, 3 confirmed, but he should have more. So obviously Yuta, while he does have domain, he also seems to be lacking a maximum. That's not like that. So I'd say Jogo's more complete than that. And even Jogo has like the aspect of his technique where he can summon other things to live and attack and breathe and do all the stuff like that. So Yuta having Shikigami isn't even that impressive considering Jogo can kind of pop out his own Shikigami. So he's more complete than Yuta. Heck, maybe, I don't think purple is Gojo's maximum technique. We don't know if Gojo really has a maximum technique like that. So arguably, being realistic with y'all, it may be the case that even our boy Gojo Satoru himself is less complete of a JJK character than Jogo, which is crazy to say. I know that's absolutely crazy to say, but once again, I'm talking solely about completeness. Complete kit wise, Jogo has a more impressive complete kit in terms of just like sheer variety of things he has that multiple characters can access within the JJK verse. Am I saying at all that Jogo is more hacks than any of these characters, that he can beat any of these characters? No, I'm not saying that. And you'll find I will keep not saying that soon enough, but still, Jogo's pretty impressive in terms of sheer completeness. He's more complete than realistically any of the 4 special grades. The only ones that he's less complete than is if you argue Kenny still counts as one of the 4 special grades, because like Kenny literally just has better everything. Like Kenny should also have domain amplification. He should know how to do it. I think he literally taught it to the disaster curses, so Kenny would have that. We know Kenny has a barrierless domain, which is better than the barrier domain that Jogo has, and we know that Kenny has a maximum. So like he has everything that Jogo has and likely more, if not flat out confirmed more. So Kenny's more complete, but that's like Kenny, you know, the most experienced fighter in the entire series, even more experienced than Sukuna. And Sukuna, I mean, Sukuna very likely does have a maximum, don't get me wrong. I would not be shocked. Sukuna has literally everything else. Highest level of RCT, barrierless domain, all that. So it wouldn't surprise me if Sukuna had a maximum. But still, since it's not confirmed, since we can't like verbatim say he has a maximum, he only has domain, and we don't know if he has domain amplification. He probably does have that too, don't get me wrong. I think that's what he's going to be using against Gojo for the most part. But still, we don't know if he has that either, so Jogo's technically a more complete fighter than even Sukuna. So that's kind of wild. I'm running off a bunch of just top tier characters who are less complete characters than Jogo, because Jogo really has a super full kit, especially for a character who doesn't even make it past the 150s. Like, bro really has a super solid kit for where he's introduced and how few battles he has. Bro really has paper stacks on stacks on stacks, like racks on racks on racks, like flat out. And once again, do I really need to go into it? He's more complete than Ryu. He's more complete than Uro. He's more complete than Higuruma. He's more complete than Isidori. He's more complete than Megami. He's more complete than really, arguably, Kashimo. He's more complete than characters like Accursed. Like, bro really is just a complete kind of fighter. Bro said, no, not bro. The verse said, hey, we got all this stuff. And Jogo said, you know, I'll take this, 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 and that. You know, just give me all of it. And he really got the whole menu. So Jogo as a character is super duper complete. I see why a lot of people definitely put him up there in constant discussions. I consistently hear people say, you know, Jogo's a top 10 character. Jogo's a top 15 character. Like, I hear it. I hear y'all. Y'all are definitely talking I won't say y'all are spitting, but y'all are definitely talking. Like, and I see why. You don't have a character this complete within the verse and be like, oh, they're like not even top 10, not even top 15. If you were to say that in pretty much any other verse, that'd be kind of wild. But within JJK specifically, a verse that is so super duper crazy diverse, like, that's kind of wild. The only thing Jogo lacks is the healing of other people. And that's literally because that's antithetical to his nature as a curse. So that's one thing he literally cannot have biologically. That's the only thing he's missing. And even then, for a curse, he is the most complete. He has everything that he could ever want and everything that the verse has to offer. But you know, after slopping off his completeness, you may be wondering, like, well, Pen, like, where are you gonna put him then? Like, if he's so complete, if he's so up there, more complete than Gojo Satoru, more complete than Suguru Geto, more complete than Yuki Tsukumo, more complete than Yuta Okotsu, where do you put him then, Pencil? And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the title of this video will be. But it may be that Jogo's not even a top 15 character. Because despite all that, despite me respecting the fact that Jogo's super complete, despite me respecting the fact that he has a super strong domain, a super strong maximum, really good ability negation abilities, all that good stuff, he not top 15. He may not even be top 17. Like, being completely real with you. And honestly, like, I mean, it'd be hard. But you may even be able to argue he's not top 20. Though, admittedly, I'm not going to argue that in this video. But I've seen arguments for him not being top 20. And I can kind of see him. However, why? How? In what way? What universe? How can a character this complete not even sit within the top 15? And let's explain why. So the thing with Jogo is that, remember in the intro when I mentioned that Jogo's kind of the middle ground of the series? Like, he's the barrier between the weak and the strong? Yeah, that really is the case, because notably, Jogo does dog on a lot of the verse. Like, pretty much anyone grade 1 or lower does get dogged on by Jogo. Like, we see what he did to Naobito after the Dagon fight. We see what he did to Nanami after the Dagon fight. We see what he did to Maki after the Dagon fight. And we see he kind of just, like, styles on all of them. Like, they don't even put up a fight. And sure, I 100% agree they were all fatigued. And notably, I do kind of agree with Dagon in the idea that Naobito is probably faster with both arms. Because notably, that's what the narrator goes out of his way to say. Like, oh, Naobito, when he had both arms, was the second fastest sorcerer. So, like, I definitely agree that he's probably faster than Jogo, but Jogo could open domain on Naobito, and even with, like, Falling Blossom Emotion, it appears that Naobito can't keep that up forever, so Jogo would definitely beat Naobito in a fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. However, even with that, what scaling does Jogo have to anyone higher than that? Like, tell me. What scaling does he have to anyone higher than that? Because I can tell you for a fact, verbatim, he does not scale to Gojo. He does absolutely no damage to that man. Not a single time throughout their entire interaction. The only time Jogo even touches Gojo is when Gojo lets him. Every other time, Jogo gets bobbed, weaved, smacked, abused. Like, it's legitimately embarrassing to go and reread that fight. But legitimately, you can go throughout the entire fight. Jogo does not land a single hit. Like, notably, he quote-unquote tags Gojo, but tagging in the sense is super duper vague. Because tagging is like, Gojo just stands there because he has the infinity and nothing Jogo can do can even remotely get past it. So there's no need for him to dodge. When he actually gets a little bit active in the fight against Jogo, Jogo does nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. None of his attacks work. None of his attacks land. And once again, he just gets abused throughout the entire fight. Like, once again, it's just seriously embarrassing to watch how badly Gojo does Jogo. I really hate how he made their names so similar, but someone told me that that was like an intentional thing by Gege, so gosh darn it, Gege. But with that being the case, he doesn't scale at all to Gojo, so there's nothing you can offer there. Even within his domain, not only does his amped Jujutsu get casually knocked away by Gojo simply swatting at it, but also his domain, we don't even get to see the sure hit, or if that would have done any damage to Gojo, because Gojo opens his domain and absolutely annihilates Jogo again. So Jogo has no scaling at all to Gojo. At all. There's nothing. So there's one. That's one of Jogo's two major encounters. You could argue, like, his blitzing and body bagging of the Dagon fight trio is also, like, a major encounter of his, and that's kind of the basis of all the scaling being realistic. So, like, we'll be generous and say that of his three encounters, the first one, Absolutely low diff, a negative diff even. Once again, he does absolutely nothing to Gojo. But what about his other major fight? Sukuna. I don't think I need to remind you what Sukuna did to Jogo in their battle. But you know, just in case you forgot, Jogo also failed to land a singular hit on Sukuna. And like, when I mean singular, I mean singular. Like, notably, you can argue maybe, hypothetically, if Gojo didn't have the infinity, then he would have been hit by some of Jogo's attacks. But one, we know, because he had the infinity, he didn't even feel the need to dodge. And the moment he started styling, But like, legitimately, the whole pre-course of this battle is the idea that Sukuna told Jogo, hey bro, if you land one hit on me, prove that you have even the tiniest bit of relativity to me, I will grant your one wish. And Jogo was like, I bet. But unfortunately, despite having massive AoE attacks and having his best foot forward in terms of trying to damage Sukuna, he does not land a single hit, a singular one. And admittedly, the fight is not that long. We see the start of the fight. I'm sorry, but we see the start of the fight in chapter 114, and it literally opens up with Jogo getting smacked by Sukuna, and Sukuna asking him, really? Is this all you got? Like, is this really everything you have? And you see Jogo try, but like, he tries to put his hands up and prepare a fire technique, only for Jogo to get his hands spliced up, and Sukuna to immediately, like, I guess he just straight up hopped off air and appeared right behind Jogo to slam him dead into the ground, except he doesn't even give Jogo, like, the proper time or space or reasoning to let Jogo reach the ground naturally by being slammed. He straight grabs Jogo by the head, slams him dead into the ground, and then proceeds to just laugh at him as he slams him through multiple buildings of a skyscraper, and he just mocks him. He like straight up says Jogo is pathetic as Jogo's jaw is broken. And we see that Jogo literally releases a massive AoE fire technique. Like, literally it burns through the entire skyscraper that they're in, only for Sukuna to have dodged it perfectly fine and just start skidding around outside. And then Jogo unleashes his maximum technique, his full, thick, girthy maximum technique. This is arguably the highest peak of Jujutsu outside of literally domain expansions themselves. And then he literally gets all the time in the world. Sukuna stands there and lets him get nice and close, but Jogo still whiffs. He still whiffs absolutely and doesn't do anything. And then Sukuna decides to embarrass him even further by awakening a fire, well, not awakening, but opening up with a fire technique. And guess what? Guess what happens not the chapter after? We see these two square off and immediately Jogo's dead. We don't even get to see what happens in the fight. Like, legitimately, I think Sukuna just released a fire arrow and instantly negged Jogo. Because, like, we have the whole moment where Sukuna says, stand proud, you're strong. He's lying, by the way. But he says, stand proud, you're strong. And we cut to Jogo, still on his meteor, by the way, his flaming meteor, burnt to a crisp. Like, bro just died to fire. Like, he's a fire cursed spirit and he died to fire. And that's it. Jogo doesn't fight anybody else. He fights Gojo the first time, fights Gojo the second time, and also fails to do anything. It literally does absolutely nothing against Gojo the second time. Fights Sukuna, does nothing to Sukuna, and his only dubs are against people who are already fatigued. And the highest and strongest amongst them was extremely fatigued and missing an arm, and they were at best a high grade 1 sorcerer. Jogo has no scaling to any of the special grades, or anyone comparable to any of the special grades. So Jogo's best scaling puts him above grade 1 solidly. But that's it. Jogo has nothing else. So, with that being the case, where does that leave his scaling within the massive world of JJK? Well, it leaves him pretty solidly outside the top 15. And if you really want to start jacking it, outside the top 20. And let me explain why. So, with this being the case, Jogo having absolutely no scaling to any of the special grades, that means anyone who does scale to the special grades would, by proxy, scale above Jogo. And notably, with him scaling to high grade 1s and up directly above them, it would mean that any curses who also scale directly to the special grades would also, as a byproduct, scale above Jogo. Now, notably, I 100% believe in the camp that someone can be stronger than you and you can still beat them. Don't get me wrong. I 100% believe that. Like, There are multiple cases within JJK where I believe there are characters who are physically stronger or have better stats than other characters, but would still lose due to other factors. And Jogo, he has some of that kind of scenario. Like a character, and I know this is going to sound controversial, but a character who I would put above Jogo is Kurushi. Yeah. You know that bug cockroach thing from Sendai? Yeah, I would pretty definitively put him above Jogo, at least in terms of raw stats. Because what does Kurushi have? Direct scaling to Yuta Akutsu in base. Admittedly, base Yuta, but still, base Yuta is still a special grade. Base Yuta is still scaling directly above Demon God Yuji. Base Yuta is still, once again, a threat that's able to... Like, he doesn't. Like, notably, he doesn't. Base Yuta doesn't scale at all to Ryu or Uro. But still, you know, he's able to not immediately vaporize or get vaporized by them. But guess what? Kuroshi's still able to damage Base Yuta. Like, Ryu admittedly can't do too much damage to Base Yuta with just sheer physicals. Neither can Uro. They need to use their Granite Blasts or their Sky Manipulation techniques to really get up in there and do some real damage to Yuta. Kuroshi swung on Yuta and, like, pierced his flesh and nearly had Yuta lose an arm or lose a part of his body. Like, Yuta was taking serious damage from Kuroshi. That's direct scaling to one of the 4 special grade sorcerers, which is something that Jogo just doesn't have. So if Kuroshi were to run up, blitz Jogo, and slam him, well, then you'd get run up on, blitzed, and slammed. And unfortunately, I would love to slop off Jogo's speed, but considering the fact that the narrator goes out of his way to explain that Nobito was the second fastest sorcerer before the arm loss, and Dagon explicitly notes that, oh, Nobito may be faster than Jogo, and notably this doesn't seem like a Nobito that was going all out on Dagon either in terms of raw speed. Nobito was kind of just like toying around and messing around with Dagon up until the point where he opened domain. It would seem to me that Jogo's not even faster than Nobito, or as fast as him. It's just that he was lucky and ran into a Nobito that just got out of a domain and burned a whole bunch of cursed energy, and was super duper fatigued and caught off guard and missing a literal arm, and thusly could not operate as efficiently, and that's why Jogo was able to tag him. But even then, Nobito was kind of able to avoid Jogo at first. So Jogo doesn't even really have that good speed scaling either. So I'd say direct scaling the special grade Yuta, being able to, you know, force Yuta to use things he didn't want to use, and Yuta couldn't casually just annihilate Kuroshi. Unless Jogo opens domain, I'm pretty sure Kuroshi beats him pretty badly, because he would literally get blitzed, have bugs shoved in his guts, and then bada bing, bada boom, done. If not, just like casually torn apart by cursed enhanced cockroaches, which is crazy to think, but it's possible. However, I could see the argument against Kuroshi, but look me dead in the face and tell me Jogo's beating Yuta. I can't tell you that. Like, I can't tell you that. Jogo has nothing that he could use to defeat Yuta. Oh, but Jogo has domain. So does Yuta. Likely a stronger one and a more polished one, considering Yuta is pretty much confirmed to have more cursed energy. Oh, but Jogo has speed. Yuta also has speed. Notably, Yuta is able to run pretty relative to Naoya, and Naoya should not be too much slower than his pops. And once again, Jogo doesn't even really scale to full speed, full power Nobito. So once again, his speed scaling is just above grade 1 tier, which is not special grade tier, where Yuta sits in terms of his speed. And Yuta once again is able to keep up with Demon God Yuji, who is pretty up there in speed. Like, I'm not going to go full in depth on that, but I think Jogo doesn't even have the speed to really take out Yuta. I think Yuta would once again run up on him, grab him by the face, and kiss him, because, you know, Yuta, the notorious curse kisser, and then blow his head apart with RCT, if the two were to ever have a battle. Or if Jogo tries to open domain, he's getting counter domained on. Bada bing, bada boom. And worst comes to worst, Yuta has Rika, and Rika slams Jogo, because, you know, Rika is the second strongest curse known to history. That would include Jogo. Well, admittedly, Rika stated that before Jogo appears within the narrative, because that's a JJK0 statement, but with Rika being able to directly contest and, you know, box with Ryu Ishigori, a good punch from Rika probably knocks Jogo's head off, if not absolutely pulverizes it. Considering, you know, Ryu has the highest output, and Rika's able to damage Ryu with punches, which is pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. And Rika's also able to palm Ryu's attacks, including his Granite Blast, meaning that nothing that Jogo has would be able to even realistically damage Rika. At least, a bare minimum, a fully manifested Rika. And I need to remind you that Jogo is confirmed to be fodder defensively. Like, bro is cheeks defensively. I slopped him off a little bit in saying that he has regen that's pretty solid. Like, obviously he can regrow from a lot. But we gotta remember, it was confirmed by Gege that, yeah, Hanami's the tankier of the two. If Jogo were in Hanami's situation in the Goodwill arc, I remind you, the Goodwill arc, and he took a hit from Playful Cloud from Todo, and a Black Flash or two from Itadori, he would have died instantly. He would not have been able to tank that at all. So Jogo defensively is fodder. So a good punch from Rika may just exercise him. Not to talk of Yuta spitting in his mouth with some RCT. That's an instant GG. So he has no chance against Yuta. Not at all. Yuki Tsukumo, the same Yuki Tsukumo that was able to casually swing through Kenjaku. You know, the same Kenjaku that's a special grade sorcerer and beyond the tier of even Suguru Geto, being in an entirely different league than him. Yeah, that Yuki Tsukumo would absolutely one-shot Jogo. He would be exercised in one hit. You know that special grade elephant curse that Kenjaku pulled out that got absolutely one-shot blitzed by Garuda? Yeah, that's the exact same thing that would happen to Jogo. Just one hit, he loses. That's it. There's nothing he can do against Yuki. And once again, say he opens domain. Yuki opens hers right back, and I'm pretty sure hers is stronger. Likely more refined, and she seems to probably have more cursed energy than him. So that's an instant lose. Heck, let's say Jogo tries to drop a maximum on her. Once again, an instantaneous loss. Because he's not going to hit her, and he's just going to waste a whole bunch of cursed energy. Because if Panda can dodge it, Yuki can dodge it. I repeat, if Panda can dodge it, Yuki can dodge it. The maximum's just not fast enough. And none of anything else in Jogo's kit is going to compensate for the massive strength gap and likely the massive speed gap. Yuki would likely blitz in one shot Jogo and exercise him immediately. Do I need to really tell you why Suguru Geto and or Kenjaku beat Jogo, like in a 1v1? Like, do I really need to? Like, they could just spam Jogo to death. And then when Jogo's not looking, boom, maximum Uzumaki. If, considering Jogo isn't tied to anybody in particular, like, Kenjaku and Geto are like the worst encounter for him, because all they need to do is spam him, wear him down a little bit, and then munch him. Jogo would literally become a part of their arsenal. And obviously, even Geto, Suguru Geto, has direct scaling to Rika and Yuta in Volume 0, which are like the physically strongest variations of the characters. And once again, considering Jogo is literal fodder defensively, he would have died from a hit from Todo's Playful Cloud and Black Flashes. Then I bet a couple hits from Geto's Playful Cloud, on top of all the curses he's going to be spamming Jogo with, is definitely going to get Jogo up out of here before he could really do anything. So he stands no chance against Geto. Light work, indubitably light work. Same thing with Kenny. Like, Kenny just makes it even worse, because Kenny just opens domain immediately and then instantly drops Jogo and then turns him into curse fodder. Like, legitimately, I bet it would be so light for Kenny to just tasty all over Jogo, and that's it. That's an easy dub. Do I need to go over Gojo? I don't think I need to go over Gojo. We're going to skip Gojo. You know, we saw that fight. We know that is not a fight that Jogo's winning. And then realize anyone who scales to any of these special grades or happens to be stronger than these special grades would also body bag Jogo. I already kind of went over Ryu and how like a single punch from Ryu would probably exercise Jogo. Because once again, his punches are able to slam Rika, fully manifested Rika. And I'm pretty sure Ryu is stronger than Yuji, Goodwill Yuji, and a Playful Cloud hit from Todo. Pretty sure, just a little bit, just a tiny bit sure. Highest output in Cursed Energy history? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's higher than anything that Goodwill Yuji had to offer, or Goodwill Todo had to offer. You know, Mr. I would get instantly vaporized if I got hit by those same attacks that Hanami did. That's wild how fodder and frail Jogo is relative to the rest of his stats, but it's just the case. And once again, Jogo tries to open domain. Oh, Ryu also has domain. And his domain is likely stronger, more refined, and better, considering he is a more experienced and more ancient sorcerer than even Yuta. And I think Yuta's domain is more refined and more powerful than Jogo's, because Jogo's domain is probably booty cheeks in comparison to the special grade tier, considering he has no scaling to the special grade tier at all. I need to remind you that he has no scaling, negative scaling, none scaling. And even then, damage, like, I can hear people making the argument now. Well, Sukuna said that the meteor, if it landed on him, would have damaged him if it hit. But what does damage mean in this context? Like, I can bump my toe up against my desk and that's damage. Like, ow, that did hurt. Or I can lose a limb. That's damage too. So like, what does damage even mean in this context? Like, hypothetically, if we're being realistic, you know, Kenny got damaged by the black hole, but that wasn't like crazy. You know, we see that Rika got damaged by Ryu's granite blast, but you know, it was scuff marks. Same thing with Ryu getting damaged by her blast, but once again, it was nothing more than scuff marks. It is entirely possible, considering how weak Jogo appeared next to Sukuna, that yeah, damage may be a couple scratches, and that's still not impressive. So I still don't think that gives him any real scaling to 15 fingers, so Ryu would body bag him. Same thing with Uro. A thin ice missile to the dome and Jogo's dead. like straight up, he instantly dies from that. A quick thin icebreaker to the dome and Jogo's annihilated. Just straight up turned to pieces. Like, once again, this is the same thin icebreaker that's able to do extreme damage to Yuta Akutsu. And we see in Yuta Akutsu's hands, it's even able to do damage to Ryu Ishigori, which is something Yuta can't do with his regular special grade tier attacks. No, he needs to whip out a spatial manipulation attack to damage Ryu. So, considering how powerful Thin Icebreaker appears, able to pierce through Yuta's defenses and pierce through Ryu's defenses, two characters who should be infinitely more bulky than Hanami, and be able to take more than a black flash or two from Goodwill Yuji and a playful cloud hit from Goodwill Toto, I think it is more than likely that all it takes is a single blitz into a thin icebreaker and Jogo's exercised. Just like that. Light work Earl would body bag him too. Don't even get me started on how dirty Kashimo would do him. Like, let's be real. Let's be really real. Do you think that Kashimo would even be intrigued? Would even be enlightened a little bit by Jogo? He would blitz him and three-piece him and then bolt him and then Jogo's gone. If he doesn't get annihilated by Kashimo's punches. Like, Kashimo's punches may just do Jogo in before he can even get the bolt off. But Jogo's definitely getting blitzed. Once again, no special grade scaling, and Kashimo's extremely fast, so he would immediately annihilate Jogo. That would be monstrously diabolical how down bad Jogo would be if he was getting pieced up by Kashimo. And the same thing with a jackpot Akari. You could make arguments for base Akari. Like, if you want to, like, really, like, here's the thing. Here's the argument you would make for base Akari, right? For base Akari, you'd have to say base Akari greater than fully healed Demon God Yuji, Demon God, pre-Demon God Yuji, 120% Yuji, weaker than Demon God Yuji, 120% Yuji, able to scale directly to true form Mahito. Hanami in the little dream state that Jogo has when he's perishing against Sukuna is like, oh, you propped him up to be our leader because he would be stronger than all of us when he reached his full potential. True form Mahito is Mahito's full potential, and Yuji's able to directly scale to that when extremely battle damage with like 10% soul left and able to swing on him and do stuff like that. So Demon God Yuji above 120% Yuji, fully healed Demon God Yuji above fully above unfully healed Demon God Yuji, and then Hakari drastically above, even in base above Demon God Yuji. Like, once again, go reread that fight. I forgot how bad it was, but like, Yuji does absolutely no damage to Hakari in their encounter. So you can make a solid argument that even a base Hakari would pull up and piece up Jogo. But if you don't like that, easily domain. Hakari opens domain, swags on Jogo instantly. Jackpot Hakari one-shots Jogo too. Light work. He wouldn't even need the full 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Easily body bagging him. This is the same Hakari who stated stronger than Yuta by Yuta himself and has direct relativity to Kashimo. Kashimo, a monster and a beast, bada bing, bada boom. Hakari's gonna annihilate Jogo. And who else do we have? You maybe think he's got to be running out of people now. No, Maki would annihilate. Oh my lord, that would be embarrassing to watch. Because guess what Maki is? Maki is confirmed faster than Obito and Naoya. Like, straight up, easily able to react to them pre her proper awakening. Like, she awakens, she becomes, quote unquote, according to that one data book statement, equal to Toji in physical ability by the time of the Zenin Clan massacre. And Toji is able to defeat a younger, more prime Naobito years in the past. Not to talk of an old Naobito who's still considered the second fastest sorcerer and is likely slower than he was in his prime. And Maki's still able to keep up with and not flat out outpace that Naobito, which is crazy. And then she awakens. So she gets precog and even faster, fast enough to blitz and outdo, well, not blitz, but still ignore and absolutely avoid Cursed Noya, who's even faster than Albedo and regular human Noya, which is crazy. So she would literally blitz in one-shot Jogo. Like, straight up soul lib him straight in half, and then just like Cursed Noya, he would immediately perish from that. Like, Jogo's not regenerating from that. His soul literally could not regenerate, immediately annihilated by Maki. And the same thing with Toji, too. Toji would absolutely dookie all over Jogo. Like, it's not even fair. Especially with the fact that Toji's even more ruthless than Maki, and he's confirmed to be equal to Maki. He would blitz in one shot Jogo too. Like, once again, he could probably do it with sheer physicals alone. He could, this is gonna sound crazy, he could probably just beat Jogo with his regular katana. He doesn't even need to whip out Soul Lib, but he has that too. He doesn't need to whip out Inverted Spear, but he has that too. Just based on how frail Jogo is, he could get pieced up by the regular katana, sliced apart like it was Sukuna hitting him with some cleaves or dismantles. Like, straight up, it'd be embarrassing how badly Toji would do Jogo, just like Maki would. And you think I'm done? Still not done. Angel would one-shot Jogo instantly. Jacob's Ladder, Jogo's done. I don't think Angel has a domain. I don't think Angel has maximum technique, but she's able to directly do damage to and beat up 15-finger Maguna. Admittedly, a fresh 15-finger Maguna, but that's still better scaling than anything that Jogo has. She was able to land a hit. Guess who was it? Jogo. I think Angel's taking that easy dub. She's getting that easy victory royale against Jogo because there's nothing he could do against Angel's Ladder. He would literally just get exercised. Like, his curse technique would be negated, so he couldn't even counter open domain. He wouldn't be able to use any of his techniques, and he would get hit by the light, and bada bing, bada boom, he's done. That's light work. That's absolute and indubitable light work. At least if you ask me. If you had to ask me. You know who else also slams Jogo? Maharaga. I know Maharaga is like a piece of somebody else's kit, but a lot of people consider Maharaga separately too, considering he acts kind of autonomously in Shibuya for the most part. So I'm going to count Maharaga in this too. Maharaga slams. He literally one-taps. Because guess what Maharaga was able to do? He was able to hit 15-finger Sukuna. Guess what Jogo wasn't able to do? Hit 15-finger Sukuna. So Maharaga would swing the Sword of Extermination once and Jogo would instantly perish. If Sukuna believes that at 15 fingers, if he was hit by the Sword of Extermination, that he'd be a goner, what do you think Jogo would be if he was hit by the Sword of Extermination? You tell me. What do you think Jogo would be? I can tell you what he'd be. He'd be smoke. He would be atomized, vaporized, legitimately entirely by the Sword of Extermination. And there's nothing he could do because Maharaga would blitz and one-tap him. Just like that. Jogo has nothing to say you could even remotely pull up on Maharaga. Guess who else slams? I'm just running through characters. I'm not even sure how many characters I'm at, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty solidly convinced you that Jogo's out of the top 5, and he's probably out of the top 2. Who have I talked about? I've talked about all 4 special grades, plus Kenny, so that's 5. I talked about Ryo, talked about Uro, talked about Kashima, talked about Akari, talked about it. Hey, you want to throw basic Akari in there as a separate character, but what, that's 9? Who else have I even talked about? I've just running through characters that slam Jogo. And that's the thing. Like, I'm slowly trying to explain to you, but I'm gonna get to the top 15. Give me a second. Let me cook some more. Oh, obviously Jogo and Sukuna, so he's already out of top 10. That's like 11 characters right there that would slam him. But let's see. Never mind, I'm at 13 because I talked about Toji and Maki, so that's 13 characters that already slammed him. Hold on, let me go grab the list. I already talked about Angel, so that's 14. We're about to kick Jogo right out of the top 15. I'm about to really kick him out. Hold on, who else we got left? Y'all may think I'm crazy for this, but I also think Uraume slams Jogo too. And I know you're going to be like, but wait, that's a bad matchup. It's literally fire against ice. Well, we obviously know that elemental matchups don't matter that much, because what did Jogo lose to? Fire. So it really don't matter like that. And 2, Uraume is like extremely powerful. Like, extremely powerful, like insanely powerful, like straight up being able to tag post Sakurajima Maki, who has precog, it is an equal to Toji Zenin, and hold her there. All it would take is a quick ice fall to Jogo's dome and he's immediately collapsed, absolutely annihilated. And worst comes to worst, this is gonna sound crazy, but considering how fast and physically powerful Uraume is too, they could probably piece up Jogo, like straight throw hands with him and just absolutely annihilate him. Just bop, 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 bop. Because guess what? They have better scaling than Jogo does. Because Jogo has nothing that implies that he even remotely scales to even a pre-Sakurajima Maki in terms of like just awakened Maki or Toji. But a post-Sakurajima Maki, no scaling towards there, buddy. So, Jogo's out of luck in a battle against Uraume too. And guess what? He's out of the top 15. Just like that. But we still ain't done. We still ain't done. Because guess who else slams him? Yorozu slams him. Absolutely abuses that man. Straight up rips the taste out of his mouth. Because guess what? Yorozu was able to do that Jogo couldn't do. Hit and actually do a little bit of damage to Sukuna. And also he would just immediately lose the perfect spear. Like there's nothing you could do to perfect spear. So if he tried to domain, yeah, he would get domained right back and immediately lose that domain battle. If she doesn't just blitz and one-shot him. And once again, considering she was able to damage 15 finger Sukuna and Jogo is durability wise goodwill Yuji level, yeah, she would absolutely slam him. No insect armor even needed, but she whipped out the insect armor. That would also be an immediate GG. And then top that off with the fact that Rika alone could probably solo. Is that cheating? Is counting Rika as her own character? JJK0 Rika would also absolutely slam Jogo too. Once again, the second strongest curse recorded in history and has feats on Ryu. I'm sorry, absolutely slamming. So there we go. And guess what? I'm still not done because Curse Naoya also slams Jogo. I know y'all are like, can this man stop bringing up characters that slams Jogo? But no, Jogo is the #1 fraud. He is the ultimate fraud. Everyone says he's strong. Sukuna said he's strong. Sukuna lied to us because he ain't strong. Because guess what? He even gets slammed by Curse Naoya. Curse Naoya is faster than Human Naoya and probably faster than Nabito, the second fastest sorcerer. And once again, I need to remind you, Jogo is frail, unbelievably frail. Goodwill Yuji frail, Goodwill Todo frail, and thusly, if post-awakening Maki nearly took lethal damage from getting slammed by a Mach 3 Naoya, guess who else would be atomized if they got hit by Mach 3 Naoya? Oh yeah, Jogo. Not to talk of if Naoya opens domain on Jogo's head and or straight up projection sorcery shatters him, like that would immediately slam him too. So that's another character that's above. And guess who else is above? Likely true form Mahito, because it was noted that Mahito was propped up as a leader because he was going to become stronger and become the strongest when he reaches full potential, and we see full potential Mahito, so full potential Mahito would also slam. And even if you don't believe that, Mahito has a 0.2 domain, which would immediately eviscerate Jogo. Bada bing, bada boom. He has a more refined, more efficient domain, instantly one-shot Jogo before Jogo could even do anything. If Jogo could even really beat Mahito. Like, legitimately, Mahito may just be hard for Jogo to beat because they have relative amounts of cursed energy and Mahito cannot be defeated easily by, like, regular fire and stuff like that. So, Mahito in base may win, but true form Mahito definitely slams. So, that's it. That's what? I don't even know how many characters I listed there, but I think that's, like, a solid 17, 18 characters that boot Jogo way out of the top 15. Definitely way out of the top 10 and nowhere near the top 5. And I bet you could pull out like a character or two that I'm just forgetting off the top of my head to really show why Jogo just is not that dude. It just truly isn't. Especially if you include variations of characters, it gets even worse. I went with 17 mostly unique characters. 17 or 18 mostly unique characters. Maybe you could say I shouldn't separate Maharaga or shouldn't separate Rika. And if that's the case, that's still making Jogo not top 15. If you were to just fold Rika into Yuta's kit and fold Maharaga into Megami or Sukuna's kit, still absolute loss and out of the top 15. Though if you include character variations, there are a whole bunch of variations of Sukuna that would absolutely dog walk Jogo. True form, full 20 finger, 3 finger. This is gonna sound crazy, but 3 finger could probably beat him. If Sukuna believes that 3 finger could put up a fight against Maharaga, then I believe 3 finger could beat Jogo. We know 15 finger can, so I would not be too shocked. It would not be too bamboozling. Teen Gojo would probably lose. I do agree. Teen Gojo would actually probably lose because domain, and he has no counters to domain as far as we know. So Teen Gojo, maybe not him, but there are ways. You could even make a pretty solid argument that Awakened Itadori beats Jogo, because once again, he managed to land a hit and tag 15 finger Sukuna, which is something that Jogo couldn't do. And remember, Jogo is fodder and weak enough to lose to a Goodwill Yuji with his black flashes. Imagine an Awakened Yuji. So overall, Jogo's fodder. Like I hate to say it, he's the biggest fraud in JJK. He has no skilling to any one of the special grade tier. He's only just a special grade curse, but even then he may lose to other special grade curses. So overall, bro, it's pretty fodder. However, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think about Jogo in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the notifications bell so you miss out on every videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where each for as low as $1, count them on now a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Nago the Pencil, writing off.